Well, man, this has been a long time in the making. Certainly an interview I've been looking forward to for a long time. Without a doubt, one of the biggest rock stars in LSU athletics history, certainly LSU football history, Tyrann Mathieu.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming down, man.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, great
It's a pleasure
seeing you.
to be here.
Yeah, well, I mean, you blink and time just flies by, huh? We
Yeah.
were sitting together covering you 10 years ago, 11 years ago as a member of the Tigers.
Yeah, man. It seems like a long time ago, but some days it feels like yesterday. So, nevertheless, man, it's been a journey.
Yeah, we talk about the legacy of number 7 and all the great number 7s, but you wore 14 as you were coming on as a freshman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took pride in it. You know what I mean? Obviously, I think the 7, obviously brought, like a bigger, broader audience nationally. But I think most LSU fans remember 14.
Yeah. And we go back, I go back a ways to, I remember, Burt Jones way back in the day wore 7, and Trev Falk coming up, and then Patrick Peterson, yourself, Leonard Fournette, DJ Chark. The legacy of that number, is it still real important to you? Do you watch it from afar?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously I feel like, the last couple of years we hadn't had that 7 that we were used to or accustomed to, but I truly believe we'll get back to it. Obviously it's a number that holds a lot of weight. And, when I first, decided to get the number 7, I wasn't trying to turn it into a fan club. I was just trying to pay homage to Patrick Peterson because he was truly one of the first people to inspire me, know. So, but yeah, it's grown into a phenomenon now. Yeah.
And you guys played on the same team for 1 year, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that was amazing times. And then the legacy of DBU, obviously, especially in today's social media world where people argue all day and whatnot.
Right.
I remember before 2019 when LSU played Texas, they were claiming they were DBU and whatnot. Yeah. So this is something still, after all your all pros and whatnot and all success in the NFL, DBU as well, the importance to you.
Yeah, it means a lot to me. Like it goes beyond the typical slogan or like tradition. Like I truly believe it's a brotherhood. And even when I meet guys in the league now, everybody wants to be a part of that. Everybody wants what we had, Patrick Peterson, Corey Webster. They want that family, that lifeline. And so you can see a lot of people throughout the league, they aspire to be, LSU DBs, you know what I mean?
And Tyrann, I imagine if you're wearing the uniform and if you're an LSU defensive back, okay, certainly you're going to hear it from fans or whatnot if you don't perform well. But I would imagine what would hurt the most was disappointing somebody like you or Patrick Peterson if those guys go out and give up 400 yards passing, whatever the case.
Absolutely. And, a big part of, my success early on, at LSU was I just wanted to be a good teammate. Like, I just wanted to represent, Pat and Corey Webster and all these guys that came before me. I was just trying to be the best version of those guys. And, in return, it created a legacy for me, a path for me. But I was just trying to emulate, some of the guys that really came before me.
It's amazing how your season with the Chiefs in 2019 was rhyming with the LSU team of 2019 who was enjoying a dream season as you won a Super Bowl. And I could imagine you being on that 19 team because you were a lot like the guys we heard about on that team. Not all that highly recruited, wasn't a 5-star coming out of high school, but just, worked and just kept working to earn your name.
Yeah. That was really, a great team. I know a lot of people, with some people, at least they like to compare the 2011 team and 19 team, and there's no comparison because, obviously the 19 team, they won a championship, but like you said, a lot of hardworking guys. I remember Justin Jefferson when he was a little kid. I remember him when he was just Jordan Jefferson's little brother. Yeah. And he's grown into, a great young man, obviously a great football player. But, those guys, were a great team, and they really helped, bring that LSU standard back, that dominance.
2011, I want to talk to you about that. And certainly the night of 2019 when they beat Clemson, early 2020, Jarvis was there. Jarvis Landry. He was a freshman on that team with you in 2011. He played on special teams, was hitting people and whatnot.
Yeah.
He hadn't become a 1,000-yard receiver yet, but he told me that night he felt like his body was healed, his spirit was healed.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I can remember being there, just obviously, throughout the course of the game, hoping and praying that those guys win. I felt like, obviously, they had a great season, but it timed up perfect, too. Those guys playing in New Orleans, and obviously, I had a bye week that week in the playoffs, so it was kind of cool for me to be able to experience those guys playing the championship. And I mean, they pulled it off, man. Like they done it, you know.
Yeah. And they fell behind 17-7 early on, and like, oh, I had some 2011 flashbacks for a moment, because it really, when you guys in 2011 were beating the brakes off of everyone, there was a lot of greatest team of all time talk. Yeah. A different kind of team. It was predicated on your attitude, on special teams and defense, running the football right, kind of just wearing people out.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I think, you know, ultimately teams can really be comprised of like a lot of different things. You know, obviously, you know, our team was more, you know, hard-nosed, feisty. You know, we battle in those close games, and you know that 2019 team now, most teams shouldn't have been on the field with them. You know what I mean? So I like to give those guys the nod, you know, anytime, you know, I'm arguing with anybody about it.
Oh, I don't know, man. I'd like to watch Joe Burrow and those guys line up.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I was writing down some of the starters on that, you know, Michael Brockers. Yeah. A guy like Ron Brooks, who wasn't even a starter. But
was impactful. Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Would he play in the NFL 7 years?
7 years, yes, sir.
Mo Claiborne, Benny Logan. Sam Montgomery, Planet Sam, Montgomery, Eric Reed, Daryl Simon, Brandon Taylor. I mean, just to name a few.
Yeah, and that was really the environment too that we had. You know, it was a lot of good guys, guys that come from good families, and then to add with that, you know, it was a lot of great athletes too. So I can just remember 7-on-7s, you know, being in the building, and you know, on one side is Jarvis Landry, the other side is, you know, Odell Beckham, and you know, even when I was a freshman, Terrence Tolliver, Ruben Randall, like 6'5" receivers, like, you know, it was impossible for us to not get better, and that's what I appreciated the most, you know, about LSU, and that's why most of us go on to the next level and, you know, have some success, because in my opinion, I feel like that our preparation, us competing against each other, you know, it really carried us, you know, to the NFL and through it.
Yeah, Jamar Chase's dad told me that when Jamar went to LSU, he actually told him, his dad told Jamar, you may not catch a lot of balls here, but the guys you're going to be going up against in practice every day will get you ready for the NFL.
Absolutely.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and well, he did catch a lot of balls along the way there. But the 2011 team, you know, reflecting back on it, I would have to say a lot of people would say it's the greatest team in LSU history that did not, you know, win a title. And I think even there's some people that we've talked about this and debated this, that the 11 team was better than the 2007 team that won the national title, because those guys lost twice and whatnot. Jacob Hester said no. But man, how do you look back on 2011? Because you guys were so great, it just, the ending just was kind of whiplash there.
Yeah, to be honest, you know, I look back on it and I say, you know, it was a great season. You know, we did everything we possibly could, you know, as far as preparation and, you know, trying our best to will ourselves to, like, you know, a win. You know, I thought that year, you know, we were a team, a unit. We were complete. We were like family. You know what I mean? And it doesn't always end, you know, how you plan on it to end. But and then too, it's hard to beat, you know, one of the greatest coaches of all time twice in the season. So, you know, yeah, man. Maybe we should have had the playoffs, you know, back when I was in school. Maybe that would have been a little more fun for the 11 team.
Yeah, you could have been the 1 seed and whip the number 4 seed and get ready for the for the Crimson Tide there. You scored the first touchdown of 2011. There was like this kind of Super Bowl matchup to start the year against Oregon, where you guys were both in the top 4, I think, and John Chavis, hey, Chief, give him credit, man. He got you guys ready for months to get ready for that up-tempo attack.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I remember that like yesterday, man, just preparing for those guys. It felt like we had prepared for them like for a year straight. I mean, the entire spring was about tempo. It was about us being in shape. It was about us being able to communicate like under pressure and, you know, in these like tense, you know, moments. And, you know, I'd probably say our coaches did a great job of kind of, you know, looking towards the future of how our season was going to play out, and then taking that using that as an advantage, you know, throughout the spring and summer for us to be what we needed to be.
Yeah, you guys scored 40 points in the game, but really early on having a hard time getting on the scoreboard, and you rip a punt out, and it just bounces into your hands, and you walk into the end zone, and that just kind of set the tone for your year.
And I was, to be honest, I was just trying to make a tackle. You know what I mean? Like I wasn't trying to do anything special. And then the ball popped out. But that's what I tell a lot of these kids, now, especially high school kids. They ask me how I did it, and I don't necessarily have like a secret sauce to like kind of give them. It's all about effort, man. Like it's all about determination. It's all about how bad you want it, and every now and then the ball will bounce in your hands because it's hard to stay away from hard worker.
Well, there's an old saying: the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to use the word lucky with Tyrann Mathieu, but sometimes that ball just bounces your way when when you work that hard.
Absolutely.
I mean, and I could spend 2 hours with you going through all the plays that year, but and then I remember you go to West Virginia, and this was like their big, hey, we're coming game. They were undefeated. I think ESPN College Game Day was there. Perhaps the nastiest student section we've ever seen on the road. These guys yelled profanities the whole game. But I think immediately, like within a blink of an eye, you knock a ball out for a fumble and get it yourself. And then there was that amazing play where you deflect the ball straight up in the air, pick it off yourself, and almost had a pick six. They tackled you at the 1.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that night. Honestly, I remember it vividly. It was a great atmosphere. It was West Virginia. It was a night game. You look up, it's all yellow in the stands. Like, and even before that game, a lot of people don't remember. Tavon Austin and Stedman Bailey, like they came on our side of the field while I was warming up. They went to barking at me. And so now at that point, now I'm like charged up. I'm ready to play. And I had a whole conversation with John Chavis about that. He kind of pulled me in his office one day and told me, hey, man, we can't do that before the game. But I'm like, hey, coach, they came on our side. But anyway, it was intense before we even kicked off. So they kind of set the table. But man, I tried to show them who I was that night.
Yeah. And they scored a touchdown to kind of get back in the game, get the crowd back in the game. But your guy on the other side there, Mo Claiborne, ran back a kickoff with 99 yards, I think, for a touchdown.
Big play.
Whole place went silent. Yeah. And I remember the Kentucky home game. This is like an early, 11 o'clock kick or whatever.
Yeah, that was the early one. Yeah.
That was another one. The Kentucky guy drops back, and you swat the thing out, and then kind of in one motion scoop it up and run into the end zone there, too.
I mean, that play there, it was like that whole play was in slow motion. Obviously John Chavis drew up the play, and I ended up coming off the edge free. The running back couldn't block me and Ron Book, so he had to pick one. And I think he picked Ron on that play, and thankfully. And so I just kind of leaped in the air, tried to hit the ball out, and then once I realized it was out, I just tried to find it. But what I really remember the most about that play is just the crowd when I ran it to the end zone. And I kind of looked at them, and I got them out their seat, and it was like, that was like a moment for me, for sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to text or call Ron and say, Ron took another bullet for you.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. He always did, So he was one of those older guys on the team that really kind of respected me as a freshman, and he never once not tried his best to help me, and I always respected that. I always appreciated that.
What do you remember about the game of the century, going to Tuscaloosa that year?
That was a physical one. I remember just being out there on the field that night, man, and it was like, I've played in the Super Bowl now, and I try to compare it to that, but obviously there's no comparison. But I felt like it was a lot of cameras. It was like a lot of people there. Like even on the sideline pregame, it was a little different. You know what I mean? And so I knew it was a big game, and we knew it was going to be a defensive game too. We absolutely kind of understood that defensively. It may come down to like us making a play, or us just kind of standing strong and keeping those guys out of the end zone. And thankfully we were able to do that because I think we only scored like 8 points that game, 9 points. It was like 9-6 so it ended up being a good defensive victory for us.
We goof years later. Michael Ford stepped out, right? And over time, it looked like he could have just trotted in, and he stepped out, and so I don't know if that would have made any difference in the long term of saying, well, LSU did score one touchdown the first time and whatnot. But 9-6. How many of those guys from Alabama did you bump into in the league and you guys talk about?
A bunch of them, man. I played with, even when I came in as a rookie to Arizona, the guy that was starting in front of me was Rashad Johnson, who had played at Alabama, and he had a ton of history, and obviously, Gerard Powers from Auburn. And, so I played with a bunch of guys, from Alabama, and, at the next level, it's just so much respect, because I think we both understand, especially, 10 years ago, it was whoever was going to win the Alabama LSU game had a chance to compete for a national championship. And for so long, it was like that. And so it was a lot of battles. I remember my freshman year, just tipping the ball up to Calvin Shepard. And it's a lot of those Alabama games, man. Me covering Julio Jones, Patrick Peterson caught a cramp one play, and I had to go cover Julio, and I'm like a snotty-nosed freshman. And you know how small I was. And you can imagine Julio Jones. And I'm a freshman in Death Valley, and I'm like, man, I just got to last like 2 plays to Pat come back. You know what I mean? So thankfully I held up to Pat. His cramp issue kind of got straightened out. But, yeah, man, I remember those moments.
Yeah. You were listed at 5'9", 175.
I probably was 5'8", 150.
150. In the midst of these SEC battles.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was fun, though. I enjoyed it. I appreciated it. It definitely made me a tougher player for sure.
Yeah. I think in 2009, before you got here, I think Patrick cramped.
Yeah.
And they immediately went to Julio, and he caught a ball and took it to the house.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the danger. That maybe that's not what you were thinking, but maybe it was what you're thinking.
Absolutely.
Hey, I can't let this happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good stuff there. The Arkansas game, the last game of the regular season finale, I think you fell behind 10-0, and your punt return once again kind of got you guys kick-started.
Yeah.
92 yards, I think.
I believe so. Yeah, something like that. And I really just was trying to make a play, man. Obviously, in that whole year, I didn't really get a lot of chances to really return kicks. Like some of them would bounce in front of me. I never really had that kind of kick to where I can catch it and then I can kind of look around and see where I can go make a play. Most punters never really gave me that opportunity. You know what I mean? And so thankfully, Arkansas punter had a leg. So he would out-kick his coverage. And so I kind of knew that on film. And even as I'm drifting back, I'm like, yo, he kicked this ball far. I maybe could be able to catch it, even though technically you're forbidden as a punt returner to step back.
Yeah.
You should let the ball go over your head, especially inside the 10. Yeah. And I kind of just took 2 steps back, and I'm like, hey, I think I got time. And so, once I caught it and saw the space, I'm like, yo, let's get busy. And it kind of worked out for me. But, yeah, you're never supposed to go backwards to
forgive me, was it Bradley Del Pivito was special teams coach? Who was special teams coach?
I want to say Thomas McGahee was our special teams coach.
Right. Yep. Thomas McGahee. That's right. He went back to the NFL and coached and whatnot.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. There's a guy named Eddie Kinnison. You know Eddie Kinnison?
I believe he played for the Chiefs for a while. Yeah, I remember.
He works in. I think he's got the longest one in NFL history, 101 yards.
Yeah,
and, ran out of his own end zone. No, don't do that.
Don't do that. Yeah.
Took it back. The SEC championship that year against Georgia, I think the LSU offense had 7 3-and-outs in the first half, did not get a first down. And once again, this guy to the rescue, right? Impacting games. Was that the one you kind of looked at the ref when you crossed the goal line?
Yeah, and it was actually that whole week was kind of like we didn't know how much I was going to play that game because we just talking about the Arkansas punt return. And during the Arkansas, as I'm running into the end zone, the punter kind of hit me in my back. And I kind of fell in the end zone. Yeah. And in return, it kind of locked my back up. Like that whole week, I was dealing with back spasms. If you really go back and watch the game, I was on a bike. Like literally the whole game. I couldn't sit still because my back would lock up. So I didn't even know how much I was going to play that day. But, I mean, I guess anytime you kind of go down, 10-0, 2 scores, like, I knew my teammates was looking at me to make a play in. But yeah, that's like a fun story. Nobody knows, but I didn't know how much I was gonna play that day, literally.
Darren, was that when the cheerleader was running out in front of you? Yeah. He was very annoyed as he's shooting the greatness.
Right at me, and his cheerleader does this.
What?
Shooting the greatness of Tyrann Mathieu, an LSU cheerleader.
Yeah.
Gets into the shot there, but did he bump into you when he got in the end zone? Were you right there?
I remember him getting pushed.
Yeah,
right there in the end zone, and then you guys winning the SEC title and whatnot. So, what do you think? Because all these years later, people talk about conspiracy theories like UFOs and Bigfoot or whatnot about what happened to LSU in New Orleans for the national championship. Yeah. And I mean, just my opinion, it just appeared like the 40 days you had to get ready. The offensive side of the equation was not well prepared. But how many questions do you get about that night and what went wrong and whatnot?
I get a ton of them. I'd probably say the one that kind of stings the most is I think most people thought we were the better team. And we just didn't win that day. And even people I talked to in the NFL and other players, they all expected us to win that night. But, going back to it, man, and understanding how important preparation is, I just don't think we were necessarily, prepared enough, man. I thought Alabama was obviously more prepared than us. And, the critical situations, the situations that count, were the situations that those guys were prepared for, and they won.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was the reason, it was 21-0. Like, we just couldn't do anything that night.
They did switch some things up, didn't they?
Yeah,
some play
absolutely.
action passes
Oh,
on
yeah,
first
a ton
down.
of them.
Yeah.
I remember even me, I'm usually a smart player. A lot of the routes that I was getting out of the slot that night weren't routes that I saw on film. So it's I was like a step off, like, whoa, this is new. And like I said, those guys were really prepared. They switched some things up, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think what you said was correct. I think a lot of people, hey, LSU's in the Superdome, they're in the backyard.
Right.
They had done this in 03, 07, 1958 at the old
Yeah.
Tulane Stadium.
Yeah.
They're going to win, and it just didn't work out that way. But, I mean, obviously it was a lesson, just like many of the lessons that you've had that you took with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Forward.
I go back to that, and I realized, because you got to remember, too, I was going through a lot during that time. Right? And 6 months after that, I was off the team. So you can imagine what was going on, like, in the present moment. And so obviously I look back on that and I realized, what kind of leader was I? What kind of person was I? Was I doing everything necessary to help the team? Was I the one that could have put us in the right kind of mindset, going into New Orleans? So I always look back on that and I realize, hey man, it's okay to speak up as a leader. It's okay to, spend an extra hour studying film. It's okay to be the guy to hold people accountable. Like, it's okay, what I mean? Because sometimes those things are needed, especially when you're like competing for a championship. Like, when a lot is on the line, you need that kind of accountability across the board,
Were guys partying in New Orleans or going to Harrah's and stuff? Those were all the things we heard.
And it's like, most of us were 18, 19, 20-year-olds, and most of us were from Louisiana, and most of us, like, we dreamt of, being that guy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd probably say, we didn't take it as serious as we probably should have. And, and that's not like a knock to, my teammates or anything like that. It's just, something that you should look back on and you should remember, to kind of take advantage of the opportunities, you get, because, we never went back to championship. We never had a chance to play in front of our family, friends, people that supported us throughout. That opportunity never came back around. Most of us had to move on with our lives. And so it's just important to kind of take advantage, of opportunities, because you never know when they're going to come back.
2012, in August, so you're there. I remember very specifically going to LSU Football Media Day. Yeah. You had gold hair at the time, short blonde hair. Yeah. And then you were dismissed from the team. And Tyrann, us in the media, when we're driving back from a game or whatnot, we start talking about LSU football and forks in the road and what could have been and what not. Mm-hmm. I definitely have some people in the media that say, well, if Tyrann Mathieu was on Team X in the SEC, he would have never been thrown off the team. That would have never happened. LSU was too hard on kids about this rule and that rule and that rule. But then I'm sitting with the man now. That maybe you're not sitting here the person you are today if they don't dismiss you from the team. So almost a decade later now.
A decade later, man. And, a lot, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. And for me, I look back on my time at LSU and I try to really minimize the bad. And because there's so many great people that I met there and so many great relationships I've had. And that's why I'm able to go back now and be comfortable and have those people embrace me. It's because, I really wasn't a bad kid. I was really a kid that kind of, I like to use the word, I sabotaged myself. I don't think that I was necessarily ready for, the role and the responsibility that I had at the time. And that was something, like, personally, that I had to get better at. You know what I mean? I did a lot of situations that I dealt with. I try to put them all in the same bucket, right? Like, I try to make them all feel the same and be the same. And in reality, like, it's not. I think every experience is different. I think, you're supposed to have challenges. I think you're supposed to have these moments where you challenge yourself to grow. And had it not been for that, like, moment in time, I wouldn't be a leader. I wouldn't be a captain. I wouldn't understand my responsibility. And I just don't think I would be, like, the person, the father I am today. Because I think that moment it put a lot of things in perspective, and it made me realize what was important, what's not, and, like, ultimately I had to make a decision on, like, who I wanted to be. And, like, I'm thankful that I made the right decision, because I see so many kids fall into the trap of they don't know who they are, like they don't know which way to go or which way to lean in or even which voice to listen to. So I'm always grateful, man, of really the people that kind of push me and help me, and I'm grateful for that.
And football games are trivial in what you're just talking about there. But a lot of people, when we talk, well, Tyrann was on the team in 2012. Like Alabama, LSU's beating them late. They should have won the game. Alabama goes the length of the field in the final moments. If Tyrann's out there, does he strip the ball out or make a tackle or whatnot? Yeah. Do you ever thought about that?
Absolutely.
If you were on that team, what would have happened?
I used to watch all the games. Me and my fiance. She's my fiance now, but she's my girlfriend then. And like we even tried to go to the Washington game. I don't know if you remember. I was sitting in the stands that night. She was kind of leaning on my shoulder, and I'm just like, man, like what did I do? Like that was kind of the start of the shift for me though, like mentally. Like I was like, because I had to kind of experience it, because I was still on campus, I was like still in school. I was still like a part of the culture. I just couldn't be a part of the team, So, and that was like one of the hardest years, of my life. You know what I mean? And it just made me appreciate, the game. It made me appreciate the locker room, my teammates, coaches. Because once you're away from it, man, and you're on the outside looking in, and nobody's giving you a key or like the access code, you like, you realize your life is a lot different than what you thought it was going to be.
And there were people at the time when you were dismissed to, people of authority or higher ups that we can't have this at LSU, and we got to, But you would hear that Tyrann's not a bad kid. He's a sweet guy. He's a caring guy. He just has this one problem he's got to fix. And if he fixes it, he'll be okay, And that's, I think over the years sometimes guys get demonized because they get thrown off a team. They're monsters and whatnot. And you were the furthest thing from it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was almost humorous in a way to see you come back with some of the same people that had dismissed you. And had their arm around you on the field in front of 100,000 people, and whatnot. But
and I think mostly, I think it's a testament, really to my growth and really maturity. That I don't necessarily harbor any bad feelings. I don't have any. You know what I mean? Because I'm able to kind of look back on it and understand that, I shouldn't expect people to give me a second chance or to turn the other cheek or to allow me to be what I'm not supposed to be. Like, it's okay, you know what I mean? So I don't necessarily like feel bad or have any bad feelings towards anyone. I think most of the times I look back, it's me who I'm looking back to, not people or what they did to me or whatnot. And then it's just a testament to the people that I continue to meet, good people that have been through certain experiences that continue to smile, continue to show you compassion and genuineness and, so those are the things that I try to emulate and try to be. I don't necessarily, I can't change the past, so it's not necessarily worrying about, what people did to me back then. I just try to, be the person I know I can be.
Well, a lot of those people are gone now, honestly. Yeah. But it's amazing. We do our Player of the Year award. We call it the Work Done Award, who, of course, is a huge part of Baton Rouge and whatnot. And as we were covering the kids, defensive backs or punt returners that wore number 7, and we'd interview them and say, hey, who's your favorite player? Tyrann Mathieu, my favorite player. And so, of all the players I can think of over the years that were dismissed from LSU, I mean, you were truly special in that way. I can't remember another guy who just really resurrected himself, and became a hero to so many people despite of a mishap like that.
I mean, community was always important to me. Team was always important. Teammates, coaches. I think that's why I have a lot of respect, throughout the league and, amongst coaches and different things like that is I just have a genuineness to be a part of team. Like I'm one of those people who do everything it takes to make the team better, to make my community better, to make the person next to me better, and I embody that. And, I think that's why a lot of, especially peers of mine, they respect me. They look forward to me being on their teams and being in a room with them. I think they just understand that I'm one of those people that help push them, in the direction that, they know they can be.
Appreciate all this. It's amazing. Tyrann Mathieu, a few more things I want to talk to you about. The whole name, image, and likeness thing, too, that's coming up now.
Yeah, I know, right?
So I go back and I'm looking at news stories, and while you're becoming one of the biggest stars in the country and a Heisman Trophy finalist, people are selling like knockoff T-shirts on the street corner and whatnot that say Tyrann Mathieu Honey Badger or something, and LSU's like having to come out and say, hey, do not buy these T-shirts, you know, they're illegal. I remember like sometimes there'd be a poster for a party at a club, and somebody would put your name Tyrann's going to be here, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't do that, you know. And so
I think a lot of that too kind of went into me being dismissed because I had become really popular, you know, like it was big. And I think some people who didn't really get to know me, they thought that was me, you know what I mean? The clubbing and the partying and all the things that kind of came with being, I don't know, like you said, a rock star, like, you know, so, and that was just something that I think people kind of saw, but they didn't, I was like, I just don't think they ever put two and two together. You know, I think a lot of people judge me off of, you know, the things that came with being a honey badger, when in reality, you know, those things weren't necessarily my interest to begin with.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Right. And although people laughed at that video on YouTube and everything, the guy cursing in it.
Right.
You didn't make that video. That wasn't.
I didn't. I remember getting on the bus after the West Virginia game, and John Chavis was on like some you know, Bengal Insider, Tiger Insider page, and they saw the video and he was like, hey, they're calling you the Honey Badger. So that was like my first time hearing about it. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, man, I had never asked for that. I was cool with being Patrick Peterson's like wingman. You know what I mean? Like that was like cool. I never in my wildest dreams believed that. Even today, I was on campus really all week, and like people are still infatuated, you know, with that part of me. And part of me it makes me, you know, smile. It makes me happy to understand that I obviously accomplished a lot on the football field, but you know, part of me is saying, wow, you know, the Honey Badger, huh? Like, who's that guy? I still don't know who that guy is, but whatever.
Well, you're still such a young man. Yeah. You turned 30 in May, right?
30, yes, sir. Yeah.
So at the time, what are you, 19 years old? Or?
19, yeah, man, I was young. I got drafted when I was 20. Yeah. So, you know, a lot of those things. A lot
to handle, right?
A lot came fast for me, man. A lot, it sure did, yes, sir.
Yeah, and I think Twitter started in 09 or something.
Yeah.
So it wasn't, I guess it was up and running, but not like, obviously not like today or whatnot. But I just can imagine if you're dealing with all that in present time.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember vividly, you know, even family members, like, it had gotten to the point where people I thought loved me for me were now trying to basically make money off a brand that I had not even accepted yet. Like, because early on, people didn't know whether or not I wanted to be called a Honey Badger. I just had the blind streak of hair. I never did an interview and said, hey, I'm the Honey Badger now. And I think a lot of people, you know, that was close to me, they started to try to capitalize off it. And like all those things started to kind of make me feel, you know, disgusted in a sense, because now I feel like I'm up for sale. You know what I mean? And just all those tricks you play with yourself in the mind, and then losing the championship game. I had a lot of things on my mind, man, and like I said, I just sabotaged it.
Well, and there's an adage that they would say in the building, block out the noise in recent years, right?
Yeah.
Easier said than done, right? When, hey, these things are out of my control. I can't control this. It's like this hurricane that's swirling.
Yeah. And
I'd like to control it and say, hey, look, this isn't me or whatever, but.
Especially when you're just a simple dude. You know, like most people that meet me, they think I'm loud and I'm probably the quietest guy in the room. I'm not, you know, I'm not asking for a whole lot. I don't, you know, need a whole lot. You know what I mean? I'm simple as it gets. And, you know, I think once people kind of meet me and they realize that, like, they appreciate me a lot more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you seem like the same person you were 10 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Through the money and the fame and the Super Bowls and that you
sir.
Played in and the one you won and everything. And,
yes, sir.
So I think people enjoy seeing that. And certainly, I just looking back on those videos and how big it was. You know, the whole Honey Badger thing and the T-shirts and
I remember I went into a Subway one day and I ordered a sandwich. Maybe it was Quiznos, because back in my day in schools, I believe it was Quiznos. And I went in and I tried to pay for a sandwich, and they would not let me pay for it. And I was, please let me pay for this sandwich. You know what I mean? And it had gotten to that point where, you know, a lot of the things I believed in, you know, I started to have to go against it, you know, and that just wasn't what I had signed up for. Like, that's not why I played football. That's not why I, you know, was the player that I was. Like, I didn't necessarily want all that. You know what I mean? I just wanted my teammates to respect me. You know what I mean? That's it.
Well, that's what I was kind of wondering with the whole name, image, and likeness deal. I mean, obviously, at the time, you're dealing with things. I mean, if we would throw this layer on top of it and Tyrann, you got to go to practice and focus on your game plan and go to class and run and lift. And, oh, by the way, man, you could make a lot of money on this name, image, and likeness. And how do you think you would have handled all that? Do you think it would have been a problem?
Well, absolutely, for sure. I think at the time, like I said, a lot of people that I thought were, family and genuine, they were going outside their way to make it an advantage for them. You know what I mean? So I don't know if I would have had the right people around me. I don't know if I would have been, making the right decisions. And so I'm hoping that for the next generation. I'm hoping that those guys can have the right kind of people around them to make the best decisions and, to make sure that nobody is trying to take advantage of them. Because these guys are young and, you don't want your dream to be like wasted. You don't want your dream to be tainted, with people that don't want to see you succeed, people that are trying to, go around, the hard work part of it. You know what I mean? And, it can help you shatter your dream. And I think that was part of what I went through. I didn't even want the dream anymore because I saw so many people come be a part of it that wasn't necessarily there to help me, achieve the dream. And now here I am, one of the best players in the whole world. And now I have so many people that have an opinion. And for me at the time, I couldn't deal with all that. I didn't want all that,
I've heard the stories too. This has got to be the worst. Like somebody's father who hasn't paid attention to him.
Yeah.
Then they make it big, like the Shaquille O'Neal story from years ago, his biological father. Now I want to use my son's name or picture to sell something.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's got to really hit you like that.
Yeah, that's a real thing. I see a lot of players kind of go through that and struggle with that in their own way, and you just really hope for the best, man. You hope and pray that guys can continue to just surround themselves around people that push them to their greatness, and not this other thing that people like to do or entertain themselves with.
Well, I use this time to talk about your LSU day, certainly, and because most of the people watching this are LSU people, but they've kept up with you during your NFL career. And certainly I remember going to the Superdome in 2013. You played for the Arizona Cardinals. Tough day for the Cardinals against Drew Brees and the Saints, but you intercepted Drew Brees that day. I remember that ball in the end zone. You picked him off.
Yeah, man, that was a play I always remember. And obviously Drew Brees is a great quarterback, and Sean Payton and that whole program that those guys created. You know what I mean? And just me being a youngster, understanding who I'm playing against, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, Jimmy Graham. Like the stakes were high for me. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to show up and show those guys that I can play on that level, and then too to do it in front of my hometown, like all the sports reporters, all the people, from high school and college, all the people that, was happy to see me make it to that point. I just wanted to try my best to, make them proud that night. And, that's really what I tried to do.
Well, you know how hard it is to win in the league, right? I mean, you've been to a couple of Super Bowls, and people just expect you to roll out of bed and make it every year because you got Patrick Mahomes and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, the Saints are a great example, right? Look at all the great teams they stacked year after year after year, and just bad luck or whatever, couldn't win another one.
It's a lot that goes into it, especially when you talk about winning a championship. NFL seasons are long seasons, and it's probably the only league where every game counts. Like basketball, so you could take a week off, 2 weeks off, and you could rest players. In baseball, you could go on a DL, for a month or two and still come back and make the All-Star team. It's like in the NFL, man, you miss 2-3 games, you can't make the Pro Bowl, you can't no more All-Pro teams, and your team probably don't make the playoffs. So it's like the stakes are just so high at that level, man. And so that's why the preparation of it, like preparation part of it, is so important. Team bonding, team chemistry, just having that awareness for your teammate, that chemistry for your teammate. Like those are the teams that play into January, every year.
I want to talk to you about Brian Kelly and the current LSU Tigers, but right now, as you and I are sitting here, you're a free agent, okay?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
And obviously, everybody wants this. Well, I say everybody that lives in a 100-mile radius or more wants to see you be a New Orleans Saint.
Yeah, I think most people see me, as somebody that can do it, somebody that can come to that team and really lift them. And I've done that my whole career. I'm not necessarily like scared of that challenge. Obviously, they have a great program, with Mama Benson and, Dennis Allen and all those people over there. So, I mean, it'd be great to represent, my state, my city, the team that I grew up watching. Even a couple of my guys that I love to, hang out with. They play for the Saints now. So it's like, it wouldn't be a bad, situation. I think right now, it's all about kind of just me taking it easy, being patient. I've been in this league 10 years now, and so anytime I get to spend with my family, I really appreciate that. And yeah, but I can see me making a decision,
Is there a timetable on this, or?
But no, I think the only timetable is, I would like to be on somebody's team before camp. You know what I mean? So
in late July.
Yeah, so hopefully, between now and then, if I can find a fit, if I can find a culture, a coach that can, really, use me to the best of their abilities, that's the place that I'll probably end up.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson is tweeting like crazy. He wants you to be there with him.
Yeah, that's one of my guys, and I mean, I couldn't imagine a secondary with me and him in it. That'd probably be first of all, it'd be the shortest secondary in the league, and then it'll probably be the most feistiest one too. So, I mean, it'll definitely give the fans in New Orleans, a treat, every Sunday.
I'm just trying to imagine.
That's a lot of wishful thinking. You know what I mean?
I'm just trying to imagine when they introduce the starting lineups for the New Orleans Saints. Starting.
Yeah.
Tyrann Mathieu. You running out of the tunnel in the smoke. That would be a tremendous moment.
Yeah, that'll be iconic.
Yeah, but it's a business decision.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so tell me about Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers.
Oh, I love him. Like I said, I've been spending the last couple of days with him, and I mean, he has a plan. You know what I mean? And he's one of those coaches that are organized. The details are so important to him, the fundamentals. And I think, him being able to establish that with the kids and with the team, with the coaches, the culture, everybody that's a part of the program, I think it's going to push the program in the right direction. You know what I mean? Obviously, it was kind of like a tug of war, the last couple of years with the last, coaching staff. But I think right now, just being in the building, a lot of people are smiling. You know what I mean? Like the building is loud. Like people are talking in there. You know what I mean? So people obviously love to be in there, and that's what you want to see. That's what I want to see. Being a fan, being a guy that, a former player. You want to see kids loving to come to the football building, and I think right now they got that.
Accountability is the word the players used over and over again.
Yeah.
And there's kind of some questions. Hey, can you still discipline kids these days when they can opt out and do NIL deals and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think it's a fine line. Obviously, I think we all come from different backgrounds. And I think it's important for coaches and anybody that's recruiting these kids to get to know them, to get to know where they come from and, what makes them tick, how to approach them, because we all have different environmental things that are kind of, making us choose or decide to do, certain things. It's just where we come from and what we may feel like is normal. And so it's just getting to know people. I think once you're able to get to know somebody, you're able to reach them. And, I was talking to somebody the other day about just the transfer portal and how hard it is and, how you have to walk this fine line because, a lot of these kids too, they friend that they grew up with and went to school with, he may be at another school getting $60,000 and you know what I mean, like over the course of 8 months, and he's getting $8,000-9,000 a month, and which is legal now. And so, but I do think LSU should, create something for these kids to be able to, so they can help these kids
maximize their.
So you can maximize the opportunity, and that way, they're not worrying about that. Not they're here to just play football, which is what you want them to be focused on,
Yeah. I really appreciate all your time. We got people starting to circle. They've noticed that Tyrann's here. They got their phones out. They're ready to get their pictures, their selfies with the great Tyrann Mathieu here. I'm trying to think if there's anything, any of those defensive backs impress you? I mean, certainly it's like they feel like they're meeting their hero. I've seen all the pictures. Hey, I'm taking a picture with Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, I think Gregory Brooks, just watching those guys practice, I think Gregory Brooks, the transfer from Arkansas, I think the standard at which he practiced at, he could have practiced with me. He could have played with me. And so you like to see guys like that on the field because you know those guys are going to lift everybody else in. So it's cool, man. It's good to see those guys out there, and you know, obviously seeing Big Mason, you know, run from one hash to the next, like to really be that big and give that much effort. That absolutely like transcends and throughout the team, and that's what you want. You want guys showing up to practice like that are 100 miles per hour, guys that are doing it the right way. And so that was just two of the guys that like, you know, I was keeping an eye on yesterday.
Okay, Mason Smith and
Gregory Brooks.
Gregory Brooks.
Yes, sir. Yep.
10 years from now, when you retire, can
Yeah.
you see yourself coaching?
I will see myself coaching. I mean, that's like the next passion for me, you know, because the last 10 years of my life, I haven't woke up one day and went to work. You know, like I'm like living a dream. You know what I mean? I have a beautiful family, and so for me, like to be able to be a coach, like that wouldn't be work for me. That'd just be me doing what I love to do, what I'm passionate about, and you know, I want to be like some of the men that helped me, and you know, Coach Lee, and you know, just so many men that kind of like showed up in my life and was like right on time. You know what I mean? Like thank God for that guy, and I just want to be that. You know what I mean? For a lot of kids, and if I can help them make it to the NFL, like that'd be cool. But I know like life is like way bigger than that, and it's like 1,000 different things we can do to kind of make ourselves happy. You know what I mean? You don't have to be a ball player.
Yeah, I'm just imagining Tyrann Mathieu walking through the door to recruit a kid to go play at LSU. That would just be fantastic.
Hopefully, I can get him to commit on site. You know, hopefully.
Let's say, son, do you know who this is?
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Look, I could keep talking to you, but I've taken way too much of your time, and everyone here is very proud of you.
Thank
you know, we were talking who would we do the Mount Rushmore of LSU guys. We put Joe Burrow up there, Tyrann, Glenn Dorsey, Billy Cannon, maybe Kevin Falk, whoever. But certainly, I think you'd be up there. I mean, real quick, folks. Look, let's see. You played 26 games in LSU history. You forced 14 turnovers.
Yeah.
In that short period of time.
That was a blessing, man. That was a blessing.
So,
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Brother.
Yes, sir.